Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to today's tale. Today, we will be learning about the Púca. Yes. So let's sit back, relax, smash that subscribe button, enjoy a horn of mead, sit by the fire, and let's get into it and learn all about this creature that is called the Púca. Now, you may have heard of leprechauns, fairies, and goblins of the Irish folklore. We will be talking about leprechauns and fairies in another video, but have you heard of the Púca? In the world of Irish folklore, no creature has gained more notoriety than the Púca. Well, perhaps the banshee. The word Púca is an Irish word meaning spirit or ghost, but it is commonly used in association with a particular type of fairy that can assume various forms, including a horse, goat, dog, rabbit, and even a goblin. No matter which form the Púca assumes, its fur or hair is almost always dark or black in color. Perhaps the most common guise the Púca assumes is that of a wild black horse, with sulfur yellow eyes and long manes and chains draped about its body. According to legend, these ominous horses would primarily conduct their mischievousness activities after dark, wreaking havoc on small villages and remote farms across the Irish countryside and destroying crops, breaking down fences, and terrorizing livestock. The origin of the word Púca has been subject of many debate among etymologists. Some believe that it derived from the Old Norse word meaning púk or púki, meaning nature spirit. Others contend that it's adaptation of the Old Irish term pólk, which means male goat, but carries reference in early Celtic horse cults. Many of these cults would meet high on mountains, and locals considered it to be a traditional dwelling place of these nightmare steeds. Some legends claim that these mysterious horses are able to speak with human voice, offering warnings and even prophecies when appropriate. While many modern-day locations in Ireland are named after these early legends, for example, Beldic Mountain in Fearock is referred to as the Peak of the Spring Horse. Púcas are known for being bringers of either good or bad fortune. This is a common trait among, I'd have to say, 99% of Irish creatures, and as well Irish goddesses and gods, in the fact that they aren't good and they aren't bad. It's all about the balance. And it depends upon which particular fae you encounter. Legends of encounters with these Púca ranges from pleasant to terrifying. One of the most noteworthy legends refers to reports of Púcas stopping around in front of certain houses and calling out names of people that it wishes to take for a midnight ride. Once a person would agree to go for a ride on the Púca, it would subsequently throw them off its back in a mud hole or a ditch. If the person refused to go for a ride, well, the horse would then vandalize their property, further demonstrating its mischievous and vindictive nature. As I said earlier, the Púca is an agile shapeshifter, to say the least, and legends of its exploits were in the forms of illustrate it more benevolently side. The famous Irish poet Lady Wide relates the tale of the Púca that took the form of a young bull. In Wide's story, the Púca secretly aids a farmer's son with milling corn into flour, ultimately making the farmer very wealthy. If the Púca takes the form of a rabbit, it will most likely be helpful and wise, even while humorous. One of the most famous examples of this is a classic movie, Harvey, based on the classic Mary Chase play, whilst the film starring Jimmy Stewart, in which the title character is, a 6-foot-tall white Púca rabbit and becomes Stewart's daily companion. In the 2001 film, Donnie Darko portrays a Púca rabbit that entices lead actor Johnny Depp, yay Johnny, into all kinds of mischief, alternating producing both good and disastrous results in the lives of the people around him. Overall, though, the Púca in its other animal forms, aside from horses, is usually considered to be more friendly and, beneficent. The Púca is central in certain Celtic archaeological traditions as well, the most famous being the harvest festival known as Simonius. This festival takes place in the first week of November, and it is usually celebrated signifying gathering of the last part of the crops. Whatever crops remained untouched in the field were considered to be Púca, or blessed by the fairy, giving reference to the common legend that the Púca would roam the field at the beginning of November and spit or defecate on certain portions of the crop, thus rendering them inedible. The Púca in these instances is, usually seen as small, hairy, deformed goblin. Even today, reapers in certain regions will leave a small share of their harvest crops untouched in the field, offering them as the Púca's share to satisfy the creature's, mischievous appetite. Several different superstitions and legends regarding the Púca still abound in Ireland to this day. Some have even painted Púca as a friendly neighbor that would stop and have a friendly chat with you and then vanish into thin air without saying goodbye. Depending upon the region of Ireland you visit, you will come across many different kinds of fun and inspiring tales regarding the Púca, ultimately showing this legend has left an definitely undeniable mark on the entire country. There are definitely numerous spellings and variations for Púca, including PCA, PLACA, PHUCA, PUKA, PWWKAAND, POOKHA, and of course POOKA, and the one that's also in what I have spelled it. All those spellings are perfectly acceptable. Púca may have derived, like was stated, from the Scandinavian words puk or puke, meaning nature spirits. A Púca is indeed a shapeshifter, as was discussed earlier. One thing to remember about it is, it seems to be that they have the power of the human speech, and when inclined, do significant athletics of those they converse with, embellishing the truth. The Púca appears to become more fear-inducing fairy in Ireland, possibly because it would seem only to come out at night, and enjoys causing, the havoc and mischief. I believe that this is an unfair because there have been no documented cases of a Púca causing harm to a human, just mischievousness with their crops and stuff like that, but no actual harm to humans. Púcas can be discovered in any rural setting in each county throughout Ireland has a Púca reference. There prefer open mountainous areas where they can run freely in horse form. In Ireland, many small mountainous ponds and springs are known as Púca pools or Púlcachit, which means Púca and demon hole. Some of these can be found at the mouths of major Irish rivers, such as the Liffey, which flows through Dublin, or the Bann, the longer river and the longest in Northern Ireland, which flows through Cullerin. Many superstitions and customs associated with Púcas are still practiced in Ireland. Those superstitions differ depending on where you are. Although there appears to be commonality when discussing the Púca, a few stories are similar and only differ in, minor details. When the Púca transforms into a horse, he enjoys himself by welcoming a rider to climb on his back, like was stated earlier. This usually happens after a rider's had a few drinks and is on his way home from a party. Thus begins the wildest ride the rider has ever experienced, as the Púca delights in terrifying the rider with its incredible ability to jump over the hedges and rocks and make death-defying leaps. The rider has been thrown off the back and left quaking but unharmed by the night's events to discover his own way home. This is perhaps where the reputation suffers a little, as on the wild night out they usually run through farmlands and knock down fences carelessly. Another thing the Púca enjoys, as do all Irish, is chatting and will gladly stop and chat with you, occasionally while offering you great advice and making remarkable prophecies. In some rural areas there will be a bench just on the right side of the door, and the gates comment on the right will be smooth, while the gate post on the left will be rocky or even some sort of uncomfy mound. This is because a good Púca will always sit on the right, where, as a more roguish spirit, will sit on the left. They usually use the same opening move to introduce themselves, something like, "You're new here, I believe. I used to live in a place many years ago." One of his favorite subjects is, how the family lost their fortune or was duped out of their money and lands. The strange thing about a Púca conversation is that you can sit and talk to him for an hour or more, then he disappears. And they never say goodbye, and you're left wondering if it's the previous hour was actually real. And they never leave any trace of their presence. A similar fairy entity appears in the mythology of Celtic Scotland, Celtic Wales, Celtic Cornwall, and Celtic Brittany. Often, though, and same as in Ireland, it's in an animal spirit of some sort. November is the month of Púca. In Ireland, at Simonius, many children went out with Púca, but others stayed indoors, fearful of stories they'd heard of what Púca did to children. In popular culture, other iconic mythological creatures are incarnated from Púca. For example, the boogeyman is derived from Púca. Also, the Easter Bunny with, its pagan origin and fairy-like creature that brings chocolate eggs and sweets to children at Easter has its roots in the fertility spirit and theme of the Púca. In Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, the character of Puck is a mischievous, quick-witted spirit, and that resembles the setting to many of the play's event and motions through his magic. This is, of course, derived from the Púca. The only man to have ever successfully ride a Púca was High King of Ireland and founder of the O'Brien dynasty, Brian Borman McGurra, and he lived from 941 to 1014, or more commonly known as Brian Boru. Brian managed to control the magic of the creature by using a special bridle that used 3 hairs of a Púca's tail. Brian's physical prowess meant that he was able to stay on its back until exhausted Púca surrendered to Brian. The king forced it to agree to 2 promises. First, that it no longer tormented the Christian people and ruined their property, and second, that it would never attack an Irishman, except those who were well drunk or were abroad with evil intent. Although the Púca agreed, it appears to have forgotten its promises over the years. Again, there is no actual evidence through the lore, through the stories, through the archaeological evidence that a Púca has actually harmed a human. It leaves them to find their way home, but leaves them unharmed. If you think that the Púca is just another myth from Irish history, well, let's take a look. The Púca exists in contemporary Ireland as well. For example, it has a strong resonance with the events of the recent past, not just symbolically either. Remember, the Púca is always around just before a disaster. Cork-born folklorist Thomas Coughton Coker, in Fairy Legends and Traditions in 1825, alleges that the Púca does appear as a real flesh and blood person. Apparently, Púca in human guise approaches someone and beguiles them in ways of their company and subsequently predicts, well, unfortunate events that will befall them. Of course, when adversity does strike, this entity is never around, hidden in a supernatural realm. It revels in the joy of watching humans enduring the effects of the events. On Wednesday, the 1st of October, 2006, approximately 1930, Dennis O'Rourke, a businessman and investor, originally from Cork City, but then living in Malahide, County Dublin, believes he met a Púca. A strange and well-dressed man was outside in front of the gate of Dennis's house. The man struck up a conversation with Dennis, claiming that he had known him for many years. He went on to tell Dennis about his family, true facts he could not have known, going back through generations, and over the years he had lost and gained memory. This man, who did not give a name, also said that family finances were based on more than just heritage. They were also subject to the greater economy of the nation. Over the next couple of years, O'Rourke witnessed not merely the fiscal fall of the country, but his own financial ruin, including to his business, his family home, and 2 other houses he invested in. Harding alleges that there are many similar reports, and possibly many more from others who, well, are too embarrassed to reveal them. The problem, Harding claimed, is that many people are not aware of anything unusual has happened until after the Púca has left. Not only that when disaster happens, Púca, like in T.S. Eliot's elusive cat Macavity, if you all remember his most famous play that Angela Weber made into a musical called Cats, Macavity is celebrated in a poem by Eliot as Mystery Cat. And, well, the musical Cat is based on that poem. Now let's look at the controversies in the origins of the Púca. Some people claim that the Púca was a god in Europe named Buga, and it believes that Buga was a god of nature, pretty much similar to Pan, the Greeks' god of nature, flocks and wild shepherds. Some language specialists argue that the word Borg from the Slavic language is actually coming from the name Boga. The name Bog means omnipotent and was the forerunner of the English term God. Others believe that Púcas are the residues of the Tuatha De Danann, meaning that the tribes of the people of the Irish goddess Dana, aka Danu. Earlier, folks knew the tribes of the goddess Danu by the name Tuatha De, which means the tribe of the gods. They were the people who once lived in Gaelic Ireland before the appearance of man on it. Those people were famous for their magical powers. There have been many stories of the Tuatha De Danann, and they were major of the gods before Christianity reached Ireland. And the tribe lived in rural areas and were known for their magical abilities to change their shapes. If you remember my other videos about the ancient Irish tales, a lot of them revolve around the Tuatha Dé. You can hear, if you want to read, in the ancient Irish tales of Ireland, especially in the Ulster cycle and some in the Finn cycle of Irish mythology. There are, if you look down, you can see the playlist that I've created for those two cycles. Some suggest that the first evidence of Púca's existence was noticed from paintings in caves of the mountains of Pyrenees in the southwest of Europe, specifically in a cave called Les Trois Frères, located in the southwestern part of France. This cave is famous for its wall paintings. Some of the paintings of Les Trois Frères are shown of a man wearing a skin of a horse or a wolf with horns on his head. Anthropologists have different opinions. Some believe that the paintings of the walls of Les Trois are a representation of shamans, while others term a team of anthropologists and scholars suggest that the drawings represent Púcas, aka a stag Púca more specifically. Especially that, according to what was mentioned previously, the paintings show a man dressed in a horse or a wolf with a horn upon his head. Now, you can also say, because of the mischievous nature of a Púca, that it can be related to the Norse god Loki, because he is known for his mischievousness, if you will. It seems that Púcas, they are coming back, but they kind of drew out as Christianity started to decimate the ancient Irish practices, and because it's a belief of animal worshipping, and the fact that their gods in Christianity was so tyrannical in taking over, and the fact that only God but the Christian God. Now, and what they tried to do, like they did with everything, is portray the Púcas as strictly evil. And because of that, and because they were seen as just, by the Christians, as just harmful, it started to lose its significance and started to vanish. Now, of course, coming back. Some people say, however, that the legends of the Púcas and that they ran to North America, where, of course, the Irish were forced to come, and also because over here, over in North America, people tended to have more reverence in the nature as well as animals, versus after Christianity took over Ireland. Now, legend goes that if you have any Celtic blood running in your veins, Púcas will always be watching you. They'll try to know you more and what you like and what you don't, and able to trick you, play, or just drive you crazy. They will then stare and smile and even chat with you. Again, Púcas are not inherently good nor inherently evil. Púcas will tell you stories. In any case, you're not the first one to dwell at a house you maybe lived at before, and well, of course, everyone that has property a house, they will also know who lost his lands and who lost his fortunes or money in gambling, and they may also try and trick you. They probably know now that the Púcas do have human speech. Whether you believe the stories of the Púca are real or not, whether you believe the Púca is evil or good or a balance between the two, there is no doubt that it has had its fair share in affecting Irish civilization and its traditional beliefs and culture. Púca is one of the most misunderstood mythological creatures in Irish culture. Just remember, Once a Púca finds a way to you, the games will start. So beware.